So, so far, what we've been dealing with is 1 point perspective, right? So we've got something, we're looking at the front of it, and it just goes off to the vanishing point, right? Cool. Okay, now that's fine as long as everything is facing forwards towards you. But what if things are on an angle? Well, then you can use 2 point perspective. So we'll start by just showing you some classic 2 point perspective and having you follow along. But suffice it to say that it uses 2 points. Pretty easy, right? And there is actually multiple vanishing point perspective, and we'll get into that soon. But let's keep it simple for now with 2 point perspective. Here we go. Okay. So with this one, I'm just got a fresh sheet of paper here, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw my horizon line, maybe, somewhere in the middle, about in the middle. Okay, something like that. And I'm just going to put my little vanishing points, one on this end of the paper and one on this end of the paper. Once again, in the very near future, we're going to show you how these things might move a lot. Okay, but for right now, cool. And so we're going to make a couple of boxes just for practice. So now let's make one box that's just sort of, in the center-ish, right? So if we had a box, we said, okay, here's the corner of our box, and it's just going to go back to here. And, like so many times, I want you to just go ahead and draw it by hand first. Practice drawing those straight lines because it's really about concepts, right? So we say like, okay, if I had a box and it went back this way, and then let's say it went back this way, not quite as far, something like that. Cool, right? So I've drawn it really light, and then I would probably go ahead and darken it up. Now I want you to leave your little guidelines on this very first one, mostly because I want to see that you are indeed drawing lightly. Okay, so I've got that. So then I might sort of just use the ruler to straighten things up if I felt I needed to. Okay, so I'm still drawing pretty light here and here, right? Not drawing any more lines than what I'd need. And here. And back to here a little bit. Still drawing relatively light, you know. Okay. So then, once I've got those, now why don't I go ahead and darken things up? Because that's what I want for my end result. So you can see that right here, right along our horizon line, it's disappeared a little bit back towards this way, a little bit up, a little bit down, right? All good. So then what if we have something that's fully below the horizon line? So let's put a little box, I don't know. Let's say right about here. So once again, I start with my corner of my box because that's what's in front of me. Before I used to draw like a whole square. Now just the corner. And I say, oh, okay, this box is going to maybe come back there and maybe about like that. And maybe it's going to go like that. And maybe it's going to go maybe something like this here. In other words, I'm just kind of drawing it in a little bit first. That's really how you should kind of start through your perspective drawings. Because remember, you're trying to make drawings, not just a bunch of lines. So then again, once I've kind of figured out where I'm going with this, then I might use the ruler and straighten things up a little bit. Okay, drawing my guidelines really light, nice and light. Let's say from here to here. So back that way. Now my up and downs are always up and down with this. Okay, that's very important. Now I'll show you that in just a second, because it is really important actually with this 2 point perspective, especially with the simple 2 point perspective. Okay, here we go. And here, and you can see where my initial drawing was kind of off in some places and kind of on in another, right? So cool. So here's my up and down, and here's my up and down, and here's this. So here's the front and the side of my box. So now how do I do the top? Well, watch. I'm just going to go from this corner right here, right, and go back to the vanishing point. Because of course I would. How else would I go? Right? So that's going to go back to the vanishing point that way. And of course, this corner you're showing this one would have to go back to the vanishing point too, wouldn't it? So I can just take that, draw it back to the vanishing point. Right? So here it is. And so here's my box. Once again, leaving my guidelines in for this exercise. In later exercises, maybe not so much, right? Because we're going to be making drawings with this just like we did with the 1-point perspective. But with this, I want to go ahead and leave those in because once again, I want to see that you're drawing light. Oh my gosh, that's so important. And then with these ones, we'll make these nice, dark, finished lines. Make them by hand. Make them by hand because you want to get good at doing things just with your hands, not with a ruler. And for me, I kind of like the lines a little bit better than those very mechanical lines. Sometimes I'll use a ruler to make lines, but this, just go ahead, use your hands. Okay, so we've got one that's just level, one that's below, just like so, and one that's above. But before I show you one that's above, let me just show you something real quick. When you are doing the perspective, as in the 1-point perspective, right, I had my horizon line and my vanishing point, and let's say I had a box that could just go here, just straight on, and it could go back, or here's another one, right, box that could just go straight on, go back, okay. And I could also do this, right? With this 1-point perspective, I could just take a square and say like, okay, I'm going to put this at a bit of an angle, right? And that could be just fine. I could do that in 1-point perspective. I can't really do that in the 2-point perspective, not in the simple 2-point perspective, because if I drew, let's say, a box, right? And okay, here I'm going to draw my little corner, and I'm going to draw this back to the vanishing point, back to the vanishing point, here, here, draw my edges and send them back to the vanishing points. Okay. Oh, good, right? Everything looks right, and it is. That's cool. But if I were to tumble this box, in other words, put it on its side, it wouldn't. So let's see. So let's say I had it on its edge like this and sent this back to the vanishing point, back to the vanishing point, this one back and this one back. Let's say even I made it parallel, cool, right? But you see, it's really not right. It's more skewed. It doesn't really work. It's as if somebody took it and just twisted it that way. Just right? So that doesn't work. We have to keep our up and downs straight up and down for this one. Well, I'll show you later how we could turn a box in space. But that's a lot more complicated, actually, because then we get all kinds of multiple vanishing points for that. But anyways, I digress. So we've got the one here that's level and one here that's down. And let's put another one, let's say that is up. It's going to be the same thing, draw my edge, draw here, figure out where these things are going to go, right? And say like, oh, okay, I'll go ahead and make this here and here. Alrighty. And then I'll use my ruler to tighten it up a little bit. So let's say right here and to right here. And there's my up and down and my up and down and my up and down. And then this is going to go back to the vanishing point, And then this one's going to go back to the vanishing point, of course. And then, of course, this corner would go back to the vanishing point the other way. And then this one's going to go back just like so. And so I'd get, yet another box. Okay. Now I've gotten really bad about labeling these. I think it's a good idea, but I got kind of away from it. Let's get back to it. Okay. Okay. So we're going to label it, and we're going to call it perspective. Drawing. And that is 7, because we've done 7 so far. And this is going to be simple 2-point perspective. Okay, and so just like we used to do, we'll go with our last name, our first name. This is exercise number 7. Oh, we forgot the period number. Period. Oh, let's say it's period 1. Okay, cool. Hopefully you do a better job at me. See, I got bad about writing, making the labels and stuff. And we already know this is a horizon line. We already know these are vanishing points. Cool.